right, everybody. We've got yet another very special guest for you all. I want everyone to welcome to the show Oscar Osorio. Welcome, Oscar.
Hey, Oscar.
Hi guys. Thank you for
Hey.
having me.
Yeah, of course. Glad to have you here, and because you are the first timer, we're gonna put you through the awful task of giving us your origin story.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, where did comics start for you, and then we'll talk about your project after that.
Yeah, okay. So for me, comics started about 13 years ago. I'm
Hmm.
from Peru.
Okay.
So here in Peru, we start getting some books. Some local newspapers start publishing some books from the Marvel 2010s, Civil War and everything by Brian Michael Bendis.
Yep.
So I started reading those, and I immediately fell in love with comics. And it's been a long journey of being um, a reader, a writer of articles, and promoting that stuff. For me here, it's not as developed as it is in other places. So I was the guy that knew about Marvel, the guy that loved superheroes. So I was that guy, and it's been a few years of reading and it becoming my passion that lately I discovered that this is what I wanted to do with my life. So I studied in the university, I had a career and everything, but I always knew that I would end up being a comic book writer
Okay.
eventually.
Cool. Cool.
And last year I had these opportunities, personal development in my life that allowed me to make this transition. And now I'm writing comics full time and I'm pursuing my passion.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. And you're making me want to quit my job and write comics now. We could do it, Chris. We could do it. Uh, that's and You bring up an interesting thing about Peru. I mean, I've never been myself, but are there just specific comic shops like our local comic shops here in the U.S.
I think
or is it
there
bookstores?
there are some stores there, but the industry here is almost non-existent. It's like a debate that's been going on for the past couple of years. I think there's some Peruvian artists that have some success out there. We had last year there was a Peruvian artist in the Marvel Comunidades anthology with Latinx heroes,
Yep.
and it sparked up the debate of what's going on here. Where's the if there's even an industry? So we have some stores that sell comic books. There's some publishers that do it, but it's really small, so it has a lot of room to grow. But I think that there's a lot of passionate people here. We love the movies that come. We love Marvel movies. We love everything pop culture. There's a lot of events here like Comic Cons where the comic itself is not so big, but people love the characters, people love the stories. So I think it's something that I've been trying to do here. It's a small push for people to transition from the movies to the comic books and start reading and discovering more of the medium.
That's very cool.
There's the move, Mike. Let's just move there and open up a comic shop.
Yeah, let's open a comic shop in Peru. And I gotta say, like, as far as like indie comics, I mean, you usually only see the big two like DC and Marvel that will actually do a translated comic, right? So there's that other side of it too, because I'm sure
Yeah,
you don't see a lot of English comics, right?
yeah. Well, here I think there's some publishers in Spain, in Argentina, in Mexico that have been doing a lot of work for bringing indie comics, but it's harder because people here have the influence of the movies or the TV series for usually big two characters or superhero characters in general, but having an indie story it's harder. So I think that the best way to get it here is like have a successful TV show or something like that, and then people will go for that. That happened with Invincible, with The Boys, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that people start seeing the other media and then they go to the comic books to see.
Okay.
And I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's the reason why anime and manga are so successful here because manga is huge, and it's because anime is easy to watch and people see the anime and then go and buy the manga, which
yeah,
doesn't happen with comics so often.
right. It's an
Yeah,
easy transfer. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I know manga has a very a much bigger international presence because they do so much translation.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like manga is like one of the biggest things in France, I've heard, because they
yeah,
do stuff. They're like one of the only companies to do French translations.
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah. I do. I have like a small shop on the side for manga, and I read that too. In France, it's huge. I think in the I visit the US often, so I've seen the evolution of bookstores in the past 5 7 years. I first got there, and you go to a bookstore and there's a lot of graphic novels and comic books, and I was like in my paradise. Right now
Yeah.
you go, and the same section that was really big years ago, it's small, and you have a super big section of manga and light novels and everything from Japan, Korea, China. So it's really growing in all over the world.
That's awesome.
So
That's
I'd
good
love
to
to
hear.
ask. So you started creating comics, and safe to say you're bilingual. Like English is not your first language, correct?
Yeah, yeah. My first language is Spanish. Yes.
Hmm.
So when you started making comics, did and even to this day, actually, we could ask this, but do you write in Spanish and then translate later? Or do you write in English and then stick with like how do you do your writing?
I do it in English. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to learn English from a really young age. So when I started reading, it was in Spanish, but then I started traveling and I bought my comics in the US. So I started reading in English. And for me, it was always about breaking into the industry in the US. So when I started writing my blogs or articles or opinions on comics and what I was reading and everything, I always wrote in English so I can reach the American audience. And then right now that I'm writing comic books, I'm trying to participate in anthologies and every opportunity I get, it's everything in English. And I think it's um, you have a lot more of opportunities in English. So it's kind of it goes both ways. For me, it's like I know the language. I want to speak the language and write in the language so people in the industry can look at me. And it's also that this is the bigger industry, so I have more opportunities if I do everything in English. But I think that as I move further in my career, I can also start writing something in Spanish for the local audience, or even publish it in both languages.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
make for an easy translation because you are the author. So for you
Yeah,
to translate it makes way more
Right.
sense.
Um,
yeah. I think that's cool. That's cool to have that. And last, or I think it was in the last few months that the Blue Beetle graduation day book
yep.
came out, and I saw that they published it in Spanish too.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I was surprised, but it was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, that's awesome that they did that.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so let's talk about Never Ending Adventure because that's why you're here, right? You want to promote what you're doing and the book coming out. So you're going through Zoop. So how did that come about? Where did that start?
Yeah, so this is my first crowdfunding campaign, my first big project that I'm doing. I last year I created a short comic book, but it was only 5 pages. So with that, I learned how to make a comic book, the whole process of writing the script, working with an editor, the artist, the letterer, colorist, and all of that. And so right now was my first time doing one of these campaigns. And when I reached the guys at Soup, that was cool because they answered quickly. They were really helpful setting everything up. So for me as a first timer, I thought to myself that this was like the a good opportunity to work with them. I would get the help that I needed. So yeah, I think it was like I had this expectation that it would take me many days to set the campaign and to create everything, and that it will take me a lot of effort. But at least with Soup, it was really easy. The campaign was done in less than 5 days, and they are really helpful. I write emails, they write back really fast. So I think I was sold on that I needed all the help that I could get in this first campaign, in this first like this is like my debut for the American audience.
Hmm.
So they sold me on that.
And I, as someone who hasn't talked to many Zoop creators, it's how is it kind of just you submit everything and they kind of handle the rest from there? Are they running the campaign and all that stuff? And
Yeah, so I've talked to a couple of creators that have worked on Kickstarter, and I think that at least those are like the big two names, right? Or
right,
I think there's
yeah,
a couple more, but so it's like Kickstarter and the rest. So
yeah,
for Kickstarter,
Yeah.
it's more like do it yourself. It's like you have this opportunity of customizing everything, creating everything, and doing it greatly. But it also takes more effort and takes experience to do it right. So that's why I went the other way, at least for this first book. And probably next time that I have experience in doing a campaign and completing it, I will go to the other one. So here at Soup is like you give them the information and they set everything up. So if you see the sub campaigns that are live or the sub campaigns that have been live in other occasions, it's like they have a template. So it's really easy to follow everything, but you don't have the opportunity to customize it a lot. So it's like it's fixed, something like that.
interesting.
So it's
Okay,
like you win something, but you lose something. But
right.
for me, at least in where I am, it was better to do it this way.
Mhm.
Well, it's nice with Zoop too because they're selective in what they pick, which has got to feel nice for you. But
Yeah,
Yeah,
because of that, they get to promote it and do their own kind of campaign with it and really push it as opposed to just being one amongst 1,000 of other
yeah,
people and just a
yeah,
random.
yeah. I think that that's also cool because I did the submission and they reached back, so that was also really fast. The process was really fast, so I was impressed with that. And yeah, you see that my campaign is next to some other big campaigns from big names in the industry. So you go to the page and I'm there. So
yeah,
that
that's
that
awesome.
also feels
Mhm.
feels good. Feels good. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about a never-ending adventure. When I read the synopsis, I after talking to you, I start seeing some similarities between your life,
Yeah.
right, and this book. So give us the plot synopsis of what's it all about.
Yeah. So this is a very personal book. So it's something that I took everything that I experienced in my first months as this comic book writer and put it into the book. So this is a story of a young Latino that needs to get a he's a former corporate worker, now a full-time writer, and he needs an idea to make a living out of his passion. So right now he will face the challenges that have risen from this decision, because I think that you have this idea that you're going to work in what you love, you're going to work in comics and everything is going to be great. I had a lot of anxiety and mental health issues while I was working in corporate. I burned out and I was done with that. But then I did this transition, and now new problems rise. You now you need to start, because there I had a fixed income, but right now I need to worry because I need to make money out of it. I need to, like, it's like I'm on I have to do some to do it fast because I need to live out of that. And then there's the other stuff, like, am I good enough to do this? Was this the right decision? Can I go back? Will it be okay to go back? Because you have people that are counting on you. There's fear of disappointment, and all of that emotions I put into that book. uh, and yeah, it's that struggle, but it's comic books at the end of the day. So this is going to be a fantastic adventure. The protagonist is going to travel to different lands. He's going to meet people. He's going to tell stories. He's going to speak with the reader, and everything, so you can get a taste of what he's experiencing and how he's going to deal with this new adventure that he's going to face.
Hmm. Wow, that sounds exciting to me, and I'll just my guess here is that, and what you're trying to do with the book is get the Latino community more into comics, or show them that you can get into comics too, like, or the experience of it all. Is that kind of what you're trying to tell here?
Yeah. So this book is it's about making these life-changing decisions, like encouraging people into doing it, but being aware of what you're doing, because it's
Right.
not like everything is going to be easy. This is a book that has the protagonist fighting against different odds and different enemies that are going to be there to try to make him doubt, because that's the whole thing. When you start to doubt yourself, it's like there's the moment that you start losing. But the
Hmm.
idea is to um, share this message that you can take this step into creation, and how will it work, what you will experience. So it's like my way of sharing my experience with other people, but it's also making it fun, because at the end of the day, for me as a creator, I wanted to do what made me fall in love with comics, and that was the superheroes and
Hmm.
fun stuff and epic fights and all of that, and I mixed those. So I created a book that it's like you see it on the surface, and it's a book about someone on an epic quest searching for some artifact that will help him have an idea, right? So it's like a
Hmm.
classic quest of I need this item, and this item will get me to my goal, and
Hmm.
that's
Mhm.
the surface. But deep inside, it's a book about emotion. It's a book about life and the struggles of life and mental health. I also this the Latino approach to mental health, because we are not so much. We don't talk about it so much here. So
Hmm.
that's also like a way of showing fellow Latinos that you can experience these issues, and this is my way of dealing with it. So
Hmm.
it can inspire you to take some action, or maybe don't, but at least see that there are other people struggling with it. So
Right. It's
yeah,
okay. It's okay to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, as somebody that pushes for that conversation to happen more, um, from my perspective, just for men to talk about it more, but
Yeah. Right.
it's a really
Yeah.
good thing for everybody to kind of put out there on their sleeve. Like, we're all dealing with mental health issues or some sort of
Yeah,
bullshit in our life that I mean, I know I, as younger, like just bottled it up and then it did not end well. But
Yeah.
I think too many people do that. So it's really cool. That's part of the story.
Um, I mean, I'm excited for it. As far as like Zoop books have gone, this one really, I would say, it's quite different than other stuff that I've seen, even Kickstarters as well. Because it's almost like a slice of life comic, but not so much from what you've explained. I find that very interesting. Um, so can you tell us a little bit about how it's going to be released? Are there's going to be physical editions, is it one issue, or is it going to be a graphic novel?
yeah. So this book is a one shot. This is like the structure of the book is something that it's also something that I like. That I so here's like the I wanted to do this book where I put like everything out there. I think that hearing I've been, like I mentioned earlier, I've been reading and writing and
Hmm.
also hearing a lot of creators talk. So it's been like a lot of years of like gathering this knowledge, and part of that knowledge was like when you do your book, you create something, you have to let it all there. It's not like I'm going to save something for issue number 2 or my second novel or my here is like you want to I wanted to do everything that I wanted to do right away, because you don't know when you're going to get another opportunity like this.
Right.
So part of what I liked about this book, it's a one shot, because at the end of the day, it was like I need to start somehow small, but at the same time, I put everything into it. So it's 32 pages. It's bigger,
Yep.
and it has the main story of the protagonist of Mark Bear, but it also has these side stories that the idea with the side stories is that this young man is dealing with what he thinks is ADHD, because it's not been diagnosed, but he disperses a lot. So he starts talking about something and then goes to another thing and completely loses that thought, but starts thinking of something else, and then he comes back to the conversation, and then he disperses again and starts thinking about something else. So to show this in the comic book, I created this side stories that happen as part of the main story that are going to um, like spawn different scenarios for the character to experience, and he's going to grow from them. So even though it's a one shot, there might be a place to grow from these side stories that start spawning,
Okay.
because
Cool.
it's something that I've been thinking, and it all goes along with the story, with what the protagonist is creating during the story. But yeah, I think that this is a really human story. So even after closing it as a one shot, I've been thinking that different scenarios of what could happen, and it has room to grow, because at the end of the day, it's the story of someone that just started. So it's like my story. So it's something
Yeah.
like it's
Right.
Yeah,
it's really personal, because it's like this is the first chapter of my story, but also of the story of the protagonist. The protagonist story is starting there, and what will happen next, right? So, but this book is a one shot, so I wanted to give a finished story, something that is self-contained, but also has room to grow. So I think that that's cool to have. And we're doing the physical and the digital edition. So I'm here in Peru, but I've been working with someone that is going to help me with all the distribution in the US and in Canada, and I will do
Hmm.
the distribution here in Peru.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, we're
Very
going to
cool.
do it in both places, so it can reach a bigger audience, especially the physical, because I think that being a writer and all, it's cool to have the physical version.
definitely. You're talking about all these little these side stories and everything that happen, and I noticed, and I mean, currently as we're talking, we're still at kind of the pre-launch page of the book,
Yeah.
but it does mention that you have multiple artists working on the book. Is
Mhm.
that sort of like these side stories and these little, like, I don't want to call them tangents, but let's call them tangents? Is it different art styles kind of coming out of it as
Yeah,
opposed to the main story?
yeah, exactly, and that's something that I wanted to do, because I love working with big teams and bringing people on board, and doing something different. So usually when I've seen different art styles within the same book, it's an anthology, or it's like a backup story, so it's not integrated. And I wanted to create these side stories with multiple artists working on them, so it can be a different style. So you see that the protagonist was thinking about something, and then he's moved into something else. So the art style is going to change for that thought, but it's not so different that you feel that it's another story. So it's like it's the same person thinking about it, but it's a different thought. And I think that's something that shows how I feel when I, because it's something that I've experienced too. When I think about something and then I go to something else, and I start thinking about something else, even in conversation with people that they don't follow, and it's like an awkward moment when you start talking
Right.
about something and they completely, but it's because of
Yep.
you. It's because you start thinking about something else, and you go somewhere else. So I wanted to put this into the page, and I brought four artists. So one artist for the main story and three artists for the side stories. And the result has been really cool, because you have this story with multiple side stories where the style changes, and each one of them has taken this story as if it were its own story. So it's cool to see that. And the other cool thing is that I chose them with my editor because of their different styles. I
Oh,
had the
cool.
script. I knew how the side stories were going to develop, but I didn't know who I was going to work with. And then I started looking for artists, and I found this, and I said, this style fits perfectly on this, like a medieval tale. This style
Hmm.
fits perfectly for this fantastic tale, and the other one for the more human tale, where the protagonist travels to his own past. And in doing so, I also chose different styles between those three artists. And then I discovered that in the team we are all from different countries. We
Yeah, I
have
see that.
we
Yeah.
have creators. It's a really international roster. We have I'm from Peru, and from there's the editors from the US. The artists are from Brazil, from Canada, from Germany, and from Italy. So I was glad that this happened because this wasn't intentional, but
Right.
I think that in some way the having these different art styles is like the artists come from different backgrounds, so it makes sense that their styles would be different because they are different, and they were
Right.
different because they were born in different places. So it was
Right.
like a big
Right.
difference, and it was
Yeah.
perfect for what I was aiming for in the book.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really it ends up being something really special. That's cool.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean you did a great job explaining what you're trying to do and what's coming with the book. I know I'm more excited for it now after chatting with you.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to read it. Chris, do you got any more questions?
Basically, just when does the campaign launch officially?
Yeah, so we are launching on, I think it's mid June. We are still closing on the date if it's 13 or 14, but it's in, I think it's less than 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
And yeah, I just wanted to mention that we are encouraging the early bird uh, purchases. So we are encouraging signups because we're going to have the early bird discounts, and also
Nice.
because this book it doesn't necessarily rely on its Latino identity, because I think it's a universal book with a Latino protagonist. But I wanted to make emphasis that in that the protagonist is a Peruvian man. I'm a Peruvian creator, and I wanted to include my country in this campaign. This is like my debut. It's a personal story, so I wanted to include my country, its essence. So in the rewards, we also have um, a llama plushie. We have that is traditional here, and comes with a book. We also have a ceramic bull sculpture that is also like this sculpture of a bull that represents fertility and good fortune here in Peru. So we have this cool um, items that
Yeah.
I included from my country. So people will see the campaign and see that, okay, this is a comic book, it's a fun comic book and everything, but this is from a Peruvian creator, and there's this Peruvian identity in the campaign, and people can feel that, because I wanted to show that this is something from Peru. It's not only Latino, it's from Peru.
I
Well,
I'm
Mike,
all
now
about
that I
that.
know that, if you're
Yeah.
ever ready to have kids, I'm going to buy you a bowl.
Yeah. Okay, great.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm gonna get the llama plushie because that sounds awesome.
Yeah, yeah, no,
I was
I'll
gonna say,
include
you're gonna get
pictures.
the llama plushie for the baby to play with. No, he's gonna get the bowl for
No,
fertility.
you get a bowl. That's fine.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I include pictures, but I think that's really cool because it's something that people from that visit Peru love, and it's something that you get, and you have a piece of Peru in your house. And I just wanted to highlight that because those are also limited. So
yeah,
I'm
right.
encouraging
Yeah.
people to be on the lookout for those.
Yep. Yeah. So while we're waiting for those 2 weeks, you can sign up right now on Zoop for a notification. Um, yeah, Oscar, this is great. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. And if we want to send our listeners and our viewers to follow you and all the stuff you're doing, where can we send them?
Yeah, so I'm at OscarOM29 at Twitter and Instagram. I have a Substack that I've been trying to activate in these weeks. So it's oscarwins.substack.com, I think it is. But there I'm going to publish about the process. I'm going to include the preview pages and all about this book, because I think that even though it's my first time doing a book of this extension, I think that I've gathered a lot of experience of knowledge on how to make a book, on what to change, how to work a script, and I'm going to be publishing that knowledge for, especially for aspiring creators, because for me it was cool to see that there's so many creators out there including this type of information. It was really helpful knowing firsthand, because sometimes you see the big legends publishing those, and it's like it feels so far. But when you see someone that is not as established, also saying how you can work. It's encouraging because you see someone that it's on a they are on a similar level to you and they are making it. So it fuels you to go in there and do it yourself. So
It's
I also
encouraging.
want
Yeah,
to give back and share what I've learned, and I love this kind of interaction because these are the things that help me. So if I can help the next one become a creator and start writing comics, that would be awesome.
that's cool, man. Yeah, very cool.
Awesome. For everybody out there watching and listening, as always, I will have links in the show notes down below. Most importantly, to the campaign where you can sign up to get those early emails so you can get those early bird specials, and also to Oscar's Substack. Oscar, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure, and best of luck with the campaign, man.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Oscar.
Thank you so much for having me.